breathe a little life into your orchestral urban bass. Hi guys, this is John Judd. This week I was mixing an urban orchestral track. During that process, I ran into a mixing issue that I thought I would share with you. So the issue was with the bass. Upright basses in an orchestral situation sit to the far right. If you're sitting watching an orchestra, 99 times out of 100, they will sit to the far right. And as such, when samples of those instruments are recorded, they're recorded in the proper seating, as it were. So we ended up with this. By the way, I would suggest using headphones or something that gives you a stereo effect, because if you're listening on a phone or a mono source, you're literally not going to hear the difference between any of these things that I show you. So I would suggest getting a stereo source. So you can tell that the bass is all the way to the right, or maybe not all the way to the right, but the brunt of the bass sound is all the way to the right. In most urban music, the bass needs to be dead center and mono or very close to mono. Although I like the sound of the samples and even where they're placed, it's beautiful. When mixing, it becomes a problem as you do want the bass to be dead center. And in this instance, I didn't have an electronic bass below those basses. I didn't have a sub. I just had the kick. This isn't that track. This is just a different example. Let me show you the solution I came up with. I'm not saying this is the solution for every single situation, but this is the one I came up with for this situation, because you know, every mix is different. Patcher. I know that I wanted the low end of the bass dead center. I wanted that mono. The high end, we wanted the presence of the high end to be coming from the middle. Maybe it doesn't need to be totally mono though. Listen to what it sounds like if it's totally mono. I'm merging these with the stereo width knob, dead center mono. Once again, the original. So the dead center mono one, there was something to my ear that was a little bothered by that. It sounded squished and it sounded like it was truly just murdering that sample. I just didn't like what it was doing to it. It sounded like it was murdering the instrument, which that doesn't give respect to the samples that you bought. If it sounds bad, stop it. I guess that's the number one rule. Stop it. Here was my solution for this. I didn't want it all the way panned to the right. I didn't want it dead center mono, all of it. Here's Patcher. If you don't know this, Fruity Multiband compressor can actually split frequencies. What I decided to do was take this upper path here. I've decided that that will be our bass signal. The lower path, that's where our mids and our highs are going to be. Multiband compressor, I turned all the compression off. The ratio, this knob right here, turn that 1:1 and it won't compress anything. We actually don't want compression on it. And there are other ways you could do this, but this is the one I chose to do. These frequency bands, this section right here, this is where the bass content is. And I decided that particular crossover is what sounded good to me. So I muted out the mid band and the high band. And then I went to Stereo Shaper and I made it mono. I actually have a preset that I like to use. Makes it so it's dead center mono. And here's what the low end of the bass sounds like. I've disabled the mids and highs. That's a dead center. What I did with the mid band and the high band, of course, you're going to check your frequencies and all that. Make sure on each compressor that they're the right frequency crossover. You might lose some content or you might even get some weird phasing or something like that. So you have to be careful. But what I did is I muted out the low band and the mid and the high are selected. What I ended up with was a signal that was still too much to the right. So I decided to pan it a bunch to the left with Fruitomatic. That's not Fruitomatic. That sounds like a blender. It's Panomatic. I panned it about 30% to the left, which you can see brought the signal over to the middle. I took Stereo Shaper, pulled in the sides a little bit, which made the signal be a little bit more in the middle. So this was what we ended up with the mids and highs. Still, to my ear, sounds a little bit on the right side, and that's okay. So now those signals mixed. To show you what we really ended up with, that right there is Nugent Visualizer. This gives you a perception of the stereo field. Here is the bass content. This line in the middle, that's telling us that that is straight up mono. Here's the higher content, mids and highs. You can see it's jumping around a little bit, and it's a very low signal. There's not a lot of it. This is both together. What we did there was we took a bass signal that you could have ruined by turning totally mono, and we left the bottom mono so the heavy content is dead center. And then we left the mids and highs so it could be spread across, still kind of coming from the middle, but it could be spread across and breathe a little bit more, because I really felt like the sample was getting ruined or squashed or something like that. So that's what we ended up with. Once again, what we started out with. What we ended up with. What we could have ended up with if it were totally mono. I hope that helped you breathe a little life into your orchestral urban bass. Thanks for watching.